Frank had always been the strong one in the family. He was the kind of man who took pride in doing things himself, whether it was carrying every grocery bag in one trip or hoisting his grandkids up on his shoulders just to hear them laugh. Around the house, he was the fixer. Squeaky doors, broken chairs, leaky faucets. Nothing stayed broken for long with Frank around. People admired his quiet strength, and he never gave them reason to doubt it. It wasn't something he thought much about. Strength was just part of who he was. But after his 72nd birthday, something felt different. There wasn't a moment he could point to, no sudden fall or sharp pain. It was slower than that, like something creeping in without permission. At first, he noticed it on the stairs. Climbing them wasn't impossible, just harder than before, like his legs weren't quite on his side anymore. He chalked it up to a long day or maybe the weather, brushing it off like dust. But it didn't go away. It got a little more noticeable every week. Then came the jars. The kind he used to open without a thought now made him pause. He found himself wrapping the lid in a towel, gripping harder, trying twice. Sometimes he handed it to his wife and made a joke, pretending it was stuck even for him. But inside it bothered him. Then one morning he realized he couldn't get up from the couch without pressing hard on the armrest. His hands pushed, his knees wobbled, and he stood like a man climbing a hill. People noticed. They smiled gently and said, "That's just how it goes at your age." Some even patted him on the shoulder, like he was a child needing comfort. Frank nodded along, laughed with them, but something about it didn't sit right. It didn't feel like aging. It felt like something was being taken from him. Slowly, quietly, like his body was changing behind his back, and no one seemed all that alarmed except for him. Every night he lay in bed thinking about it, not in fear, but with a kind of searching. He didn't want to become someone who just accepted it. That wasn't Frank. He didn't know exactly what was wrong, but he knew himself. This wasn't laziness or just a bad week. It was something deeper. And deep down, even if everyone else said otherwise, Frank believed that strength didn't just vanish without a reason. One morning, Frank sat alone sipping his coffee when something on the radio caught his ear. A doctor was talking about myostatin, a protein Frank had never heard of. The doctor explained that this protein increases as we age and actually tells the body to stop building muscle. Frank froze. So it wasn't just him getting lazy or weak. It was something happening inside his body that hit him hard. Later that day, curiosity took over. Frank searched everything he could about myostatin. What he found made too much sense. After the age of 65, this protein builds up more quickly, silently slowing down the body's ability to stay strong. The fatigue, the shrinking strength, the harder mornings, it all lined up. His body wasn't just aging, it was being told to stop fighting. The realization was both frustrating and oddly comforting. For years, Frank had blamed himself for the changes he felt. Now he saw the bigger picture. His muscles were being shut down by something deeper, something biological. But here's where things shifted. Scientists were finding ways to fight back. It turns out myostatin isn't unbeatable. Research showed that the right kind of movement, smart nutrition, and emerging therapies could push back against it. Muscle could still be built, even after 65. Frank felt a flicker of hope light up inside him. Maybe it wasn't too late. The next morning, he didn't just drink his coffee. He got up and moved, slowly but with intention. That radio moment had changed everything. He wasn't just older now, he was informed, and that meant he had a choice. Frank had spent the last few years feeling like his strength was slipping away. Tasks that once felt effortless were now a struggle. But then he stumbled upon something that caught his attention. Certain foods rich in a nutrient called leucine might actually help his body start rebuilding muscle again. He read about how whey protein, eggs, and even fermented soy were packed with this powerful compound. What surprised him most was that leucine didn't just help with general nutrition. It had a direct effect on something called myostatin, a natural protein that tells the body to stop growing muscle. Leucine could block that signal if eaten regularly, especially in the morning. He decided to give it a try, starting each day with a breakfast high in leucine. A shake made with whey protein, a couple of boiled eggs, and occasionally some fermented tofu became his new routine. It wasn't some extreme diet or a magic pill. It was real food that his body seemed to recognize and respond to. He wasn't expecting miracles, just a little more energy, maybe a little more strength. But after a few weeks, something began to shift. He wasn't as sore after long walks. Getting up from the couch didn't feel like a heavy lift. It was subtle, but it was there. To go along with his new breakfast, Frank added a few simple exercises into his day. Nothing intense, just slow, deliberate movements. He'd sit down slowly in a chair, then rise again, focusing on control and balance. It didn't seem like much, but each motion reminded his muscles to stay active. These tiny moments of effort started to build on each other. What once felt like a daily decline was now turning into a quiet comeback. At the same time, Frank made a small addition to his morning routine, a daily dose of vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids. These were easy to find, just over-the-counter supplements, but he'd read they played a role in muscle health too. Vitamin D supported his bones and immune system, while omega-3s helped reduce inflammation and supported muscle recovery. Together, they seemed to help amplify the benefits of everything else he was doing. In a matter of months, Frank felt different. He wasn't chasing youth. He knew he'd never be 20 again. But he had energy in his legs, strength in his hands, and a new sense of control over his body. What had started as a small curiosity turned into a powerful shift. He wasn't just getting by anymore. He was moving forward with purpose and feeling more alive than he had in years. Just a few weeks into making small but intentional changes, Frank noticed something surprising. He wasn't fumbling objects or dropping things like before. His grip felt stronger, steadier. Even his posture, once hunched and heavy, began to straighten. He walked down the hallway with a new sense of control, no longer clinging to the railing like a lifeline. These weren't huge changes, but they were real, and they mattered to him. At first, Frank thought it might just be a lucky stretch. But when he visited his community center, he noticed something strange. He wasn't the only one feeling different. People he'd known for years, folks who used to complain about aching knees and sluggish mornings, were walking taller, moving faster, and smiling more. There was a new energy in the air, like something had quietly shifted and no one wanted to jinx it by saying too much. Curious, Frank asked around. It turned out that others had been following the same small routine he had started. Nothing extreme, no protein powders or grueling workouts, no miracle pills or expensive treatments. Just simple changes that helped the body remember how it was meant to move and grow. The focus wasn't on breaking the body down, but on waking it up. What really surprised everyone was how much these changes seemed to fight back against the stiffness and weakness they'd all assumed was just part of aging. It wasn't magic, and it wasn't a trend. They were learning to tell their bodies to stop listening to something called myostatin, a natural blocker that tells muscles to stop growing. And once the body stopped giving that signal so much power, something incredible happened. Muscles began to strengthen again, energy returned, even mood and sleep improved. This quiet transformation spread through the community like a spark. It wasn't flashy, but it was powerful. People who used to dread walking across a room were now going out for strolls. They were gardening again, dancing again, living again. All because they learned how to support their bodies in a way that gently unlocked what had been waiting inside them all along. Not with force, but with understanding. And for many, that changed everything. Frank had just turned 68 when he noticed something was off. Everyday tasks that once felt easy, like carrying groceries or getting up from a chair, suddenly seemed like a challenge. He chalked it up to aging, assuming it was just part of getting older. But deep down, he knew something wasn't right. His body felt weaker, and that steady loss of strength started affecting his confidence and mood. What Frank didn't know at the time was that this wasn't just age creeping in. It was something much more specific and, importantly, something he could do something about. You see, as we age, our muscles naturally begin to shrink, a condition called sarcopenia. It's common, but it's not inevitable. And that's where Frank's story took a turn. A friend mentioned that muscle loss could actually be slowed down and even reversed with the right support. Curious and ready for change, Frank began to dig into the science. He learned that what and when you eat plays a huge role in how your body holds on to strength. Protein, especially the right kind, wasn't just a fitness buzzword. It was fuel his muscles had been missing. Frank started making small shifts in his routine. He added a high-quality protein source to his breakfast and made sure not to skip meals. Timing mattered more than he realized. By spacing his protein throughout the day, his body had a constant supply of what it needed to rebuild. Alongside this, he started moving more. Nothing extreme, just gentle, daily movement like walking and a few easy resistance exercises. These weren't major changes, but they added up fast. What surprised Frank most was how quickly things turned around. Within weeks, his energy started coming back. He wasn't just maintaining, he was gaining. Tasks that once left him tired now felt easier. His clothes fit better, his posture improved, and he even started sleeping more soundly. The combination of targeted nutrition, proper timing, and simple activity had sparked a shift inside his body that no longer felt like aging. It felt like progress. Now Frank shares his story with everyone who'll listen, especially his peers who think it's too late to feel strong again. The truth is, strength doesn't vanish overnight, and it doesn't have to disappear at all. With the right approach, you can stop the loss and reclaim what you thought was gone. Frank didn't just get older, he got stronger, and you can too.